Welcome to Life Expansion After 50. Today I'm doing something a little bit different. I'll be talking about the 7 fitness areas. Life Expansion After 50 is a broad topic, and I use the 7 fitness areas as a framework to work through it. 7 fitness areas is mental, physical, spiritual on the left side, and then in the middle is emotional, and then relationship, professional, financial on the right side. The idea is be, do, have, making the shift from have, do, be. So in the be, do, have, we first have to become mental, physical, spiritual, emotional. And then emotion is the gateway to the right side, which is relationship, professional, financial. Too often we start on the other side. And imagine if somebody's focusing with the last one, financial, you can see where corruption comes in, compromising integrity. You can always interact with me, not so much on the Facebook 7 Life Expansion After 50 Facebook page, but on the Life Expansion After 50 Facebook group is where I have the interaction. You can also post your workout. So this is a basic footwork drill. I'm going to go through here, 2 steps in between, just to get things moving. The footwork drill's part of a subset of sprinting. Sprinting is one of the best overall. It's a full body exercise, and it drives neurotransmitter. It also improves testosterone for men, estrogen for women after menopause. And some of these are indirect, so you have to dig a little deeper to find it in the research. But certainly mitochondria is up at the top of the list, as is human growth hormone. And if you think about, we have 100 billion neurons. Virtually everything is run by the central nervous system. So sprinting really improves the central nervous system. So what 7 fitness areas does is I use it as a framework to help me keep on track, but also coaches can use it as a way to, literally, you can keep going around the 7 fitness areas over and over and over. But I run laps around the first 4, mental, physical, spiritual, emotional. That's all I'll be talking about today. So that's one drill. We can also do a quick forward. Now I'm doing these drills because I'm going to start sprinting, and I have a sprint time from about 5 years ago, which I want to beat. So that's what the drills are about. I can't sprint every week because you have to have recovery time, and you run into diminishing returns pretty quickly. The footwork drills do a lot of this, have a lot of the same benefits, and I can do them every day, but I switch them up. So there's 7 elements that go into making these exercises good for neurotransmitter production, which I'm using as a proxy for all the great things that occur from deep practice. But it's novelty, something new. So I use a different footwork drill virtually every time I go out. I set the cones up differently. So it's intention. So when I'm going through it, I have some intention, either speed or precision, or it could be simply warming up. It could be simply getting myself to where I want to do the exercise. And then we have balance and precision. So you can see where the precision comes in. Balance, not so much on this drill, but there's other drills where I reach down and pick up a cone and have to place it down with precision. So that's where I get into the balance. By the way, this is a weighted vest. Right now it's only 4 pounds. The plan is to add 1 pound a week, subject to being able to meet a specific time. So I have a setup with the course. You'll see me, oftentimes I measure out the distances because I want to have a consistent course, short course, 42 seconds from week to week. But the idea is to get back to 42 seconds or 40 seconds, 45 seconds, and then add a weight, 1 weight per week if I'm making the time. If I'm not making the time, then no. And that gets to the next one, progression. We have to have progression. I can do progression by speed, resistance. I use bands when I'm doing other body parts. Uphill is a good way. I could spread the cones out further. When it comes to bounding, the cones could be further apart. And then we also have explosive, and that drill, I'll do this drill here, is going to be good for explosive. And then the last one is struggle at the edge of ability. So I can't bound all the way to that last cone. I can bound from here, almost. I can bound from here, almost. So what I'll do is from here, so I'm struggling at the edge of ability. struggling at the edge of ability communicates to the nervous system that this is important. And you can see the struggle on the edge of ability. I don't have my footwork down, but in a week or two, that'll be easy, and I'll add something in addition. So that's a nice warm-up drill. Now, I did the in and out shuffle, I did the back and forth, and now this last one will be on one foot. Now, I'll start putting it together. You'll see there's another bag over there. So to work on the sprinting part, what I want to do is add a little bit of speed into it. I can turn these the other way, which is really how the drill is done, but then my back would be to the camera. But they would be turned, so after I come out that last one, I take off running. Now, the other thing I can do is tie it in with the bounding exercise in both directions. So I'm only running, it's about 10 yards, but I'm working on the start in sprinting. The first 10 yards, 5 yards, is important because that's where you get your momentum going. So I'm going to do 4 or 5 and then use the bound to go. So this one is the because I have to slow down. That's a form of explosiveness, right? It's like bounding. This is typical bounding, right? Like if I wanted to jump up 2 or 3 steps at a time. But because I'm slowing down, it's also like bounding. Some of the drills we go back and forth, and because I'm changing direction, it becomes bounding. So now I'm gonna start off on the other leg. So it's boom. So I mentioned 7 fitness areas. I'm going to run through them quickly and just talk about each one. So the reason for the 7 fitness areas framework, I use it as a roadmap, and it helps me keep track of where I am. And in the beginning, I may only do small increments with a client because let's say they're highly triggered or they're stressed out. You know, they lost their job, they've been looking for a job for months. They're feeling their total fixed mindset. They can't snap out of it. With that person, I have to use baby steps. And we'll do mental, physical, spiritual, emotional. And we'll do it quick. I might do it in one session, a lap, real quick, just to get them some space. I need to first create some space. Now, what does that mean? So, the first one is mental. We have to discern the difference between the real mind, the conscious mind, and associations, which are from what we call the subconscious. I will not call it a mind. It's a subconscious. I don't even like calling it a subconscious, but I have to call it something that people can relate to. I see it as the network of neurons. So the network of neurons, so let me just stop there. I just stepped on that bag. When I get tired, I get sloppy. Deep practice is about precision. If I start getting sloppy, it's time to back off a little bit. This is not about building muscle. It's about flooding my system with neurotransmitter. It's about communicating to my central nervous system to get ready because tough times are ahead. And it's not like a bad thing. the only easy day was yesterday, right? So we know it's going to get more difficult because as we grow, we have more capability. Our problems grow. We have to remember that we're growing in excess or exceeding the problems. So the first set is to get that space between understanding the difference between the conscious and the subconscious and introducing choice. So you may have heard the term stimulus response. Pavlov's dogs, ring the bell, food, ring the bell, food, then ring the bell, no food, but they still salivate. Our subconscious is basically the network of neurons, the associations from the past, largely done between age 0 to 7, and those are our habits. When a person is triggered, you're often witnessing survival responses that could be as old as 0 to 7. So what we have to do is get to the point where we're not seeing those survival reactions as the decision or the response. Also, talking while doing the drills is harder, and that's another form of struggling on the edge of ability. It improves both my vocal ability as well as the drill. So if you think about a stimulus, there's going to be a reaction. That first reaction is an association from habits. Habits are from the past by definition. I could have associations in the future with visualization, but largely associations are from the past. The reaction is from the past. Now, if we're living the same life we've been living, if we're doing the same stuff we've been doing, it's not so bad. If we, as a hunter-gatherer, if we've been farming at 50 is probably not that different than it would have been at 7. But in real life today, our 50 years old is very different than what we had at 7. So we have to have some pause. So what we do is we train in instead of stimulus, reaction response, it's stimulus, reaction, response, and then decision. It may seem complex, but all that's happening inside of 3/4 of a second. So we have to condition it in at the nervous system level. In the physical area, I've been talking about it. You probably can't, if you came here because of this page, but there's more to the physical area. The short version is this. We can live seconds without blood, minutes without air, days without water, weeks without food, months without exercise, if not years. That kind of tells you what the priority is. So we have to make sure we have clean and good blood. And they'll tell you that blood is going to be at whatever it is, the right pH, something like 7.62, slightly alkaline. It's going to be there no matter what. The blood is always going to be right. But what they don't tell you is that when the body works hard to get there, it's creating oxidative waste and inflammation, and those things create problems. Inflammation can cause the need for cholesterol to protect the walls of the linings and the organs. Then breathing. Breathing is a big one, but I'm going to talk about that more in the spiritual area. And then, obviously, hydration. So everybody knows we should drink water. But what I don't see often is the importance of stopping the dehydration in the morning. So if you sleep 8 hours, that's 8 hours you haven't had any water. You get up in the morning, you have brain fog. You think you just need coffee. But if you just drink a half a liter to a liter of water right away, you'll start to notice that fog lift because thick blood can't get oxygen and nutrients to the brain efficiently, hence the brain fog. So I can go on and on the physical area. As you can see, it's not focused on fitness. This part is because it's talking about the neurotransmitter, but there's enough written about muscle building and all that. What I'll say is there's a great book, Body by Science, is a good book to start. And I'll introduce another book on breathing. That comes with the spiritual area. But if you're tracking with me in the network of neurons and you're getting that, you already can make the connection that the majority of cognitive processing is actually physiological. It's not mental because it's happening at the neurons, and what's going through there is energy, and that's why it's so fast. That's why the reaction of the subconscious is a quarter of a second or less. The reaction of the conscious mind is more like a half second. So the subconscious has a jump. Not only that, it processes at something like 11 million bits per second. It's so fast because it's essentially energy going through the network of neurons. And that's why we get these thoughts and we think it's our thinking, because thought is also energy. So they have a similar signature. So it does take a little work, but you can discern the difference between real thought and what's coming from the subconscious. And it's important to know that. Then the next area is spiritual. Now this is not spiritual in the sense of the spiritual realm. If I have, on this side we have physical, on this side we have spiritual, in the middle is a space. People have different widths on that space, and I'm going to call that the woo-woo gap. If we have spiritual here, physical here, is it just one line that separates the two, or is it a big gap? The more people talk about the universe, I manifested it, hope the universe gives me this, and that kind of language has the effect of increasing the woo-woo gap because you can't understand it. What I want to do is collapse the woo-woo gap. I have an experience that I understand the spiritual realm from my perspective. I'm not pushing that on people. But what we do know is that if I twist my ankle, it's going to hurt, and it takes some amount of time to heal, some faster, some slower. But that's a physical experience. The other side of it, when a real miracle happens, I'm talking about a real miracle, we say that's on the spiritual side. The fact that we exist and can do what we do, you could say that's spiritual. Depending on, again, I don't want to push a narrative. But in between there, what I want to do is collapse it. In order to have real agency, we have to be in control and know that our inputs equal our outputs. When I say control, I don't mean control of other people or environments. I mean control of our inputs, and we have to have confidence that our inputs are going to equal our outputs. Like I said, we have to do laps because there's a lot to unpack in each one, and you have to, like unpeeling an onion in each level. I can't just dump it all because it doesn't make sense, and I want people to experience it for themselves. But one of the first things is breathing. If you do nothing else, just start box breathing. 4 counts in, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold for 4 counts, and then exhale for 4. That gets you to about 4 breath cycles per minute, which is great. We create anxiety with short breaths. The same way long, deep breaths create calm, short, shallow breaths create anxiety. And see, neurons can fire both ways, and the neurons that fire together wire together. So there's a lot of crosstalk with the neurons, and because it goes both ways, my short breaths create anxiety, anxiety creates short breaths. So you want to start working on the breathing. That's one entry into the spiritual. The other one is I unpack success principles, affirmations, belief, visualization, about how they work so that we realize that it's something that we're doing, it's not happening from the outside. And then the last one is emotions, and it's about emotion modulation. So emotion modulation is that emotion is energy in motion. Emotion was never meant to be dwelled upon. It will come and go within 90 seconds if you leave it, if you let it. But if you suppress it, it can last, and it can become a neurobiological feeling or a chemical. It could become a feeling, and a feeling is a chemical or a neurobiological event, and that gets stored in the neurons. And that's why you can get triggered. So we do a little simple thing of, the first thing you want to do is locate the emotion. Where is it? Where do you feel it in your body? And then label it, give it a name. And there's only one of a short list. Is it disappointment? Is it frustration? Is it anger? Is it embarrassment? Is it vulnerability? Is it helplessness? Figure out what it is, give it a label, and then you can act on it. But before you act, you learn. So locate, label, learn. And that's a way to start processing emotions. I'm ripping through these, but I want to paint the picture of how the mental, physical, spiritual, emotional, we gain control of that. We have agency and personal leadership. And then on the right side of the framework, you have relationships, you have professional, and you have financial. You see, the left side in the middle is in our control. We're in charge of all that, hence the agency and personal leadership. The right side, other people are involved. You want a relationship, you need somebody on the other side of that equation. You want to be successful professionally, you may be a seller, but we need a buyer. Even traders, there's somebody on the other side of a trade. Financial, by serving people, relationships, and the professional comes together to build a financial. And of course, there's also the investment side of the financial, which is the simple version is compounding. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about those three. The first thing is about gaining agency and having that personal leadership so that we don't have the fear of running into these spirals where we worry about coming up with this anxiety and we can't control it and we end up shutting down. And that alone gives you a better mindset. But it's much bigger than that. And the mental side, just to give you an idea, we look at beliefs, neuroplasticity, priming, mindset, and then we look at the pre-stimulus phase, and then we deal with the stimulus, reaction, response, decision, action. And that part of it, stimulus, reaction, response, decision, action, is all in a second, maybe a second and a half. The pre-stimulus phase, the beliefs, neuroplasticity, priming, mindset, and the pre-stimulus, all of that, and that's that's physiology basically. All of that is just what we live with. They say we make about 33,000 decisions a day. Those 33,000 decisions are actually stimulus response cycles. And each one is priming us into the next one, priming us into the next one. So if you want to change your life, you have to start somewhere and break that cycle. And I'm going to leave it there. So there you go. You've had some idea about the 7 fitness areas. I did a little struggle on the edge of ability by talking about it and doing some footwork exercises. For those of you new, I normally have colored cones out here and I do different configurations. But because I was talking about the 7 fitness areas, I just wanted to keep it simple and not get bogged down talking about the cones. So there it is. I'll be activating the Facebook group this week where you can join and you can start sharing your exercises. We can even do some timed events. We can mark off using your phone. You can mark off distances and you can compare notes with other people on the page to see how you're progressing. July 15th, I'll be doing my sprint trial to beat the time I had in 2020. So I have a personal best in 2020 for that year. And that number, I got that number down to about where it was in my late 50s. And I want to beat that time, and that's why I'm doing the footwork and some of the other drills. So it's sort of a test. I'm being real careful because I don't want to get hurt as I work my way up to it. All right, there you go. Drop me a few questions. I'll be happy to answer them next time I go live. Ciao.